you good?
Okay,
All
good.
right, we going live now. Waiting notification. Okay, boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning into a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this evening. We have a wonderful guest with us tonight who's going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than Brother Khalifa Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
I just want to thank you on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience of the People's Podcast for taking time out of your busy schedule, sir.
Yes,
this
sir.
means a lot to us all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So the first question that we have for you, Brother Khalifa, is when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Okay. Before I even begin with that, Brother Joshua Muhammad, I am a student of history. I love history. That's my favorite subject. So I give thanks to you. I give thanks to your father for you and to Allah for you, brother, because what you're doing, you are documenting the history of the Nation of Islam in your own unique way, which is vital and can't be underplayed. So I'm very honored and very grateful to be on your show, my brother. So on behalf of my father, on behalf of the Nat Turner Library and here in Southampton County, Virginia, again, thank you. So as far as how I got started in the Nation of Islam, a lot of people used to ask me, not a lot of people, a few different people asked me from time to time when I was a teenager, they would say, wow, were you born in the nation? It's like, no, I wasn't born in the nation, no. But I guess I had that type of look and appearance. My father actually started teaching me Islam when I was about 4 or 5 years young. And I found out from him very recently that the first time I actually saw and heard the minister was at the Armory in the early 70s in New York City. He brought my mother and him and me when my biological parents were still together. And even before that, my father actually used to listen to a brother from his hood. He used to go down to see Malcolm X at Temple number 7, and then would come back to the block and tell him and the other brothers in the hood about, what was going on and what Malcolm X and what the Nation of Islam was saying. So I say that to say, and my mother had a big old afro when she was pregnant with me. And I say that to say that, it's always been, I believe in me, as it has been in every believer, to be genetically coded for how Allah and the person of Master Muhammad would use us. So, actually first directly hearing the teachings, it began when I was like 3 or 4 when he took me to the Armory. And fast forward a little bit later when I was actually 5, I didn't know anything about Malcolm X at all, but my father was a publisher of Black books. He actually started independently publishing Black books in the early 70s and started attending the Temple meetings in the early 70s in Temple number 7 under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Min Farrakhan. And I heard the name Malcolm X and I was like, yeah, Malcolm X was really a great leader. And my father was like, yes, but he had a teacher and his teacher's name was Elijah Muhammad. And I was like, wow. Malcolm X had a teacher. So something about that man's name just resonated inside of me, even from that young age. There was a magazine that my father distributed in the business that he had. And the magazine was called Africa Magazine. And even though it was covering Africa, of course, there was an alliance and relationship with Black people here in America. And on the front cover, one of the Africa magazines was a close-up headshot of the minister. All the way up on his face. And even though the minister was still coming back to his senses, he was still glowing like a light bulb. And I just studied that picture. Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
And it just resonated in me, even though I didn't necessarily know who the minister was at the time. Still something about just looking at his picture was just, wow. Because again, he was just glowing. So fast forward, well, not even fast forward, then as a child, my father would tell me like, look, whenever you want to go out to the temple, just let me know. And I was like, okay, Dad. And, I really wanted to get a bow tie. Finally bought me a bow tie. And then finally it's like, okay, Dad, go ahead and take me. And when he brought me, this was like 77, 78. And we went up to, what was formerly Temple number 7, and now it's the Masjid and the Imam. And we're kneeling down and doing all this Orthodox Islam thing, and I was just like, something's not right. I couldn't put my finger on it, but as a child, something was just off. And I didn't know anything. Well, I knew that I knew of the minister, and my father had a relationship not just with the minister, but then also with other groups or communities of Islam and brothers who claimed Honorable Elijah Muhammad and weren't necessarily following the minister. So I was aware of those things, but the minister, I never seen, I shouldn't say I never heard him teach or speak. Growing up, after he restarted the nation until 1985. So, I'm meeting different brothers and sisters in the nation, including those who are with the minister. But again, I never actually heard an audio or seen a video, or let alone actually seen him live. Reading about him in the news periodicals that my father published. But then lo and behold, the minister came to Madison Square Garden, October 7th, 1985, and he brought me there. And he actually had a couple of tickets. He'd given away the tickets to a sister who really wanted to go. And so he brought me anyway, and he said, we're getting inside. My father is not only a publisher, he was also a journalist. So he had a little independent Black newspaper type periodical, and he brought me there. I'm all of 16, and he's trying to get in there without a press pass and without tickets. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to ride, because even as a child, even though I didn't know a whole lot about the nation, about Islam and the teachings, just hanging around him and being around him, I just knew something about the FOI and how fierce and how stern they were. I even thought as a child, it's like, man, who would I fear more, the FOI or the police? And I said, the FOI. So we get there, we get to the check post, and my father, again, doesn't have any press credentials. He's just a strong Black father there with his teenage son, and he's holding up his newspaper. And the brother on check was like, okay, where are you trying to go? It's like, well, I'm a journalist, and I'm here with my son to see the minister. And even though my father didn't have any press credentials, the FOI just looked at the two of us and said, come on. And we went in there, saw the minister, and brother, I never seen or felt a spirit like that, needless to say, my entire life. And it was just electric. The only thing I can compare that atmosphere in Madison Square Garden that night was the Million Man March. And the Million Man March, of course, was on a different level. But from that point forward, I was like seeing all the FOI, seeing all the MGT, seeing the sisters in ranks in their uniform, seeing the FOI in ranks in uniform pop into attention. I was like, oh snap, the nation is back, because I always wanted to join. I wanted to be a part. I wanted to help. But I didn't actually still come out to join at the age of 16. I wanted to make sure that, my father would tell me stories about how, we would be in Harlem and he'd be like, yeah, that brother over there, he used to drive the minister in a limo. Yeah, that brother over there used to be a lieutenant. Yeah, this brother over here used to be this. Yeah, that sister over there, she used to be that. And, you've been around your father, you've been around us long enough. There's an expression that we have, used to be's don't make no honey. And I hadn't heard that. But for me, even at a young age, I didn't want to be registered and then 90 days later be out the door and gone in the streets someplace. I didn't want that to be me. So I built up my foundation. I love to read, I love history, I love books, I love knowledge, I love to acquire that. So I wanted to make sure I built up my foundation really strong. So in 1992, March 8th, I actually got registered in the nation here in Virginia. So that was my journey to actually getting registered.
Beautiful. All praises to Allah. Yes, sir. I'm learning so much. Even though you were in Atlanta, we never had this conversation about, how your journey into the nation. Thank everyone who's showing love all across the country. My sister Miriam says, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam now. And once we put this on, please let us know what city you all are watching from. Yes. Okay, now back to you, Brother Khalifa.
Yes.
You speaking very highly of your strong Black father. What is his name, sir?
Oh, my father is Khalifa Senior. So we call him affectionately Baba Khalifa. And my father has been publishing Black books for over 40 years now. Of course, he's in semi-retirement now. And he woke up and he wanted to do something to help out Black people directly. And he started to actually get registered and join. And he kind of figured somewhere along the way that he could be a better service to the nation on the outside, if you will, rather than being on the inside. And as I look back on life, when I was, of course, when I was young, it's like, no, that wasn't the way, Dad. But now looking back, it's like, you know what, you may have actually been better off serving the way you served. And I'm not in a proper position to judge you. And I love and appreciate you for that. So that said, like we were speaking about a little bit earlier, my father had a love and a thirst for knowledge, and of course had a love and appreciation for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad more than any other man in history. And he actually saw the books of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad were in print, but they weren't necessarily like they were prior to 1975, where they were in full color, some even hardcover. They were hardcover at the time. The Final Call had generic 2 color tones for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's titles. And my father had actually struck up a business deal to publish or reprint How to Eat to Live, but my father didn't want to reprint the books without permission from the man who was sitting in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's seat. So, and these parts aren't necessarily known about a whole lot. There was a brother by the name of Mahmoud Abdul Ramza Muhammad, of course. Now, may Allah be pleased with him. Have you heard of him before, Brother Joshua?
No, sir.
Brother Mahmoud Ramza, then in the 50s, known as Brother Walter 5X, was actually the de facto official jeweler for the Nation of Islam. To give you an example, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad actually designed the MGT GCC bar. Brother Walter 5X then, Brother Mahmoud Ramza now, but again, he passed away a few years ago. He actually made the MGT bar and the FOI pen of physical reality. And he was actually a friend of my father. And he asked Brother Ramza if he would communicate a question to the minister, a request for permission to actually reprint the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's books. So the minister said through Brother Ramza, oh, brother, I can't control over who reprints my father's books. So my father used that, of course, with the proviso being that, anybody who would reprint the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's books, that they do with love and tenderness and care and professionalism. And of course, that's what my father did. So he actually reprinted How to Eat to Live, Our Savior Survived, Fall of America, Message to the Black Man, all in full color like they were prior to 75, according to how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had them designed. And that was kind of controversial because, not kind of controversial, it was controversial. Because you know how some of us can get to be sometimes. And even the minister really doesn't care if anybody reprints or gives away any of his messages on audio or video. But if you're actually reselling those things, of course, that's a totally different story.
Yes, sir.
So in 1992 at a Torchlight for America in Atlanta, he actually met my father physically for the first time. Again, he had heard of my father, and to the point where even when he published the Final Call newspaper, he asked if my father could actually become a distributor, one of the distributors for the Final Call. And my father had actually gotten remarried, moved to Virginia, and unfortunately he couldn't do it. He actually wrote a letter to him. Unfortunately, my father no longer has a copy of that letter. So there was an ongoing friendship and relationship and respect that the minister had for my father. So when he actually finally met my father met him physically for the first time in Atlanta in 1992. He was, of course, the minister was working the room, shaking everybody's hands and introducing, meeting and greeting and doing what he does. And according to my father, I wasn't actually there. He reached my father and shook his hand and held his hand for a long time and said, "Thank you, brother. Thank you for keeping my father's books in print." So that made me feel a lot better because I just got registered in 92 and I'm sort of green and experiencing young and gung ho. I don't want to make sure that I'm standing on solid ground, and that made me feel a whole lot better too.
All praise due to Allah. Yes, sir. And my sister Naima says, send the greetings. Also, all praise due to Allah.
Walaikum salam again to everyone. Thank you.
Showing love across the country. Now, the Nat Turner Library.
Yes.
Elaborate, sir.
Yes. Okay, actually, my father's awakening journey, and I had kind of a similar awakening journey. My father had read a book called, I think it was 15 Black Writers Respond to Walter Strayhorn's Nat Turner Confessions. There was this fictional book written about Nat Turner by this Caucasian white man, and it was a whole travesty. So these 15 Black scholars wrote a book responding to that garbage. My father read that book and he started waking up. And from that point forward, he actually fell in love with the history of Nat Turner. And then fast forward years later, the business that he had grew exponentially in the 1990s. That's when, we reached our zenith, if you will. And even my first few years out of college, I didn't have to go, work in corporate America. I was able to work for my family business. And all praise is due to Allah. So as my father and my mother, stepmom's mother Rita, Khalifa, may Allah be pleased with her, they're acquiring money. And of course, they're following the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And they're like, okay, we need to buy some land. And, they were like, okay, so they looked. And in Southampton County, Virginia, which is where Nat Turner is from, there was 123 acres that was up for sale at a good price. So they purchased that land and built her dream home there. Unfortunately, before she could actually live in that dream home, she returned to the Essence. So my father and my sisters actually ended up living there. But the land was right there in Nat Turner land, if you will, which was the ancestral birth land and the land where he actually lived and, did what he did in 1831.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't necessarily where he was born and actually where he lived, but like literally right around the corner from where he was born, like a 5-minute drive and like minutes away from where the revolt was actually staged and was actually led. And there is a very, very strong connection between God, and I just thought of another connection. Golly, all praises due to Allah. Between Nat Turner and the nation. The revolt was led in 1831. 100 years before, guess who met guess who? Master Father Muhammad met the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad for the first time.
Yes, sir.
The world would never ever be the same. Nat Turner wanted to lead his revolt July 4th. Why? For the exact same reasons. He would catch the enemy slipping, asleep. But he couldn't do it because he got violently ill and sick. He was really worried about it. But I think more than anything, Allah actually wanted that day for himself. And even within the name Nat Turner, you see Nat or nation. I just thought of that just now. On Cabin Road, which is where the revolt was actually staged, the route is called 720. Now, within our star and crescent on our flag, the stars are at 72-degree angles. So, and then just to add an exclamation point to all of that, when they finally executed Nat Turner, after they captured him, and he went to the gallows, he was stoic, serene, at peace. He wasn't whimpering or crying. He was a straight up disciplined FOI, if ever there was one. And for 2 straight weeks after he was executed, it rained and rained and rained and rained and rained, drove the enemy to distraction. So Allah was absolutely, positively with Nat Turner and the unbelievably brave and courageous troops of his. It's just that in certain ways he was 100 years ahead of time. But overall, that brother was definitely on time. And there's probably a few other parallels that I can't think of right now. But yeah, there's no question. And one other thing too, there is also, and this is nothing spooky, but Brother Joshua, energy never dies.
That's right.
And the ancestors are real.
Yes, sir.
The ancestral presence on that land and that area is very real and very strong. And I don't mean in a spooky, crazy Hollywood type way, because that's the experience that the wicked have and the enemy has. That's not necessarily our experience and good positive people have. And that's all I'm going to say to that. That's a whole nother discussion that I don't even know if I necessarily want to have on here. But the ancestors are very real. and their presence is very real on that land and in that area. I'll just leave it like that.
All praise due to Allah. Yes, sir. Well, Brother Khalifah, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't have a follow-up question to that.
Absolutely.
Me and my sisters, we speak about that all the time, about the
Yes,
answer,
sir.
energy never died, and
Yes.
it's right here. So,
Yes.
but how does that on the land? Is it, so you're saying that it's a peaceful thing for the original people?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All praise due to Allah, my sister.
Yeah. Well,
I'm listening, Brother Khalifah.
well, let's just say that certain things move that, I didn't necessarily move and nobody else physically moved. Certain things kind of drop and end up missing and then end up reappearing later on. And certain other things, let's just say, happen that there's no other way to really say they happened like that. And then the land is also like some type of intensified communication portal too. And, it's not to say that you can't be anywhere at any time and not have a dream, but really when you have a dream with someone, a loved one or a family member, or just someone who's returned to the essence and they pop up in your dream, that's not necessarily per se just your subconscious. To align that with the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that thoughts are things and those thoughts don't die. So there are thoughts of the righteous out there in the universe. And I can't necessarily say for an actual fact that then, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would say that then that person would actually take place in your dream. And that would be, not saying that necessarily, but even the minister spoke about a dream that he had with Malcolm X about 20 or 30 years ago. And Malcolm just asked him, brother, what happened? And the minister said he woke up from that dream and he was shook. So I've had, dreams with my mother, with my first wife, may Allah be pleased with her, who passed away. And I don't think that's necessarily just strictly thoughts per se, so much that it is their energy that, again, never really dies. Like, to give another example, I actually had a dream with my dearly departed stepmother, Mother Rita Khalifah, may Allah be pleased with her. She passed away from breast cancer in '97. And when she was, really terminal cancer, but she was still rallying and try to, live her life and extend her life. The minister even actually called her at her, when she was at her bedside and said a prayer of healing for her. But anyway, I actually had a dream with her a couple of years ago, and I was like, in the dream, I was like, yeah, I can move this fast. She's like, oh, that ain't nothing. I can move a whole lot faster than that. And we were in some type of a classroom type setting. So again, I don't really want to get, spooky with it or anything like that. Again, the bottom line is what the bottom line is. Energy never dies. It just doesn't. It takes another form. And like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, none of us have ever come back from the dead. We could tell us exactly what that form is. So if I'm not mistaken, I've heard the minister say that one of the questions that he has with Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he gets to the wheel is what happens after we physically die. So that's how I would say that, brother. And there's a few more things I could say.
Well, please, Berkeley, because this is something that this is on my study right now. Like I'm
Yes.
on YouTube.
Yes.
I'm looking into some people give us any insight, and anybody who talks to me is like, yes, Josh, we know.
Yes.
My mom, you know what I'm saying? So naturally, that's gonna make me.
There's some things I'm just not going to necessarily say over this YouTube airways or over the airways because they're just too sensitive. Some conversation I would have with you personally, I wouldn't necessarily have right here. I'll just leave it at that.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. People was Naima said that's so real. Okay, boom. But Patrick said Allah is present. Naima said yes, sir. Facts. Amy said, my sister Miriam said, thank you for sharing this. Sister Malika says, thank you, Walaikum Salam family. She loves you all. She found out that she's a relative of Nat Turner on her father's side of the family. Her dad name was originally Tom Turner from Virginia.
Yes.
He had to run up the north and hide where a Caucasian sheriff gave him the last name Walker. She traveled with her siblings to a location in the Nat Turner Library in Virginia approximately a year ago in hopes of meeting Nat Turner's relative. This is just so awesome.
Okay. And when we say the Nat Turner Library, let me be clear.
Please.
My father actually had his home, and he wanted to build a standalone independent structure that would be the library building. But as funds started to get a little low, he just incorporated a wing of his home to be the actual Nat Turner Library. Excuse me, we no longer necessarily have that actual physical edifice. So we're in the process of fundraising and actually building a standalone building. And we're going to build it on that land, excuse me, that my father still owns. So the Nat Turner Library is virtual, and we actually give tours on what we affectionately call the Nat Turner War Trail Tour. So anybody can arrange a tour. You can go to natturnerlibrary.com. You can give a phone call to 434-637-1230 and arrange a tour. We'll do groups, we'll do individuals. We've had schools. Heck, we even had a Jesuit Catholic all boys school, mostly white boys, come through a few years back. And they sat very attentively and respectfully and had a good time and enjoying it. There were a few Black boys there too. Yeah, so that's what we do. It's what we enjoy doing. You know, teaching the history, teaching the legacy. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And why the name War Trail?
Well, because it was war. It was absolutely a declaration of war and enslaving our people. So my father said, don't just simply call it the Nat Turner Trail, call it the Nat Turner War Trail Tour, because it absolutely was and still is an ongoing war that we are up in the middle of all the way up to this present day, as we both know.
All praise to God. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And have you, because it's the land,
Yes.
and some land is passed down through generations, the owners, former owners of the slave masters from back then, are there relatives near you all?
Very good question. Now, I didn't actually grow up in that area. And, you know, like I was speaking about earlier, I grew up in New York City. So my sisters grew up in part in Southampton County, and formerly in another part of Virginia. So I asked them, I was like, well, did they teach you anything about Nat Turner in school? No. Did you and your classmates ever discuss Nat Turner? Once, and that was it. So I mean, Nat Turner and the troops, and when I say Nat Turner and the troops, we're talking about my enslaved ancestors, most of whom were young. It wasn't like, you know, some old heads, you know, in the 40s and 50s, because that's pretty old back then. No, we're talking about teenagers mostly, maybe men in their 20s, maybe a couple in their 30s, because war is always fought by who? By the young people. So they did damage, brother, and they literally destroyed whole bloodlines. So as you can imagine, you know, the enemy doesn't like that. And you know, like I think you got a picture of Michael Jackson up there on the wall. I use that as a teaching point to say, no, they absolutely positively do not want this history taught at all. The reason why I mentioned Michael Jackson is when he started waking up and he found out that the Egyptians were Black, you probably heard the story. He wanted to, you know, make a movie showing the Egyptians as being Black. So, you know, he had to finance that and do that on his own. And we're in that same type of mindset. We need to go ahead and tell this story on our own, because nobody else will tell it and give it justice like we will. And I mean, it's to the point where there's a beautiful elder who lives locally who actually taught my father and continues to teach me too into the history of Nat Turner, not just the history of Nat Turner, because when we give the tour, I incorporate all of Black history, because I don't want anybody to think that, you know, our history began in slavery. We don't go for that in the nation at all. So Mr. McGee said that when it comes to the enemy tries to do three main things when it comes to our history. They said the first thing they tried to do is totally pretend like it's not even there. So deny it. But when they can't deny it anymore, then what do? They try to discredit it. Oh, well, it didn't really happen like that. You know, something happened, but it didn't happen like that. But then the third D is when they can't even, you know, discredit it or try to spin it a certain type of way, then finally they say, okay, look, that's not working. We just need to just go ahead and destroy this thing. So literally all the different war or battle sites of the Nat Turner War Trail Tour, brother, the enemy is trying to destroy them. And they want to go ahead and have certain sites that they have where the good white folk lived and keep those areas preserved, and then teach the history from, of course, their perspective. So there was, as a matter of fact, again, to show you how Allah is directly tied into this as he is with everything. Back when that Nat Turner movie was released, it was released on October 7th, a number of years ago, which of course is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's birthday.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, our poor people, the actual descendants of that, some of the descendants of Nat Turner got a hold of what was the skull of Nat Turner. It's a crazy, convoluted story, but it ended up somehow in the hands of the mayor of St. Louis, and who was a Black man. And my father heard about it and somehow actually was with him and said, brother, you should turn that over to the family. He did. Then the family did what? The family, and I mean no disrespect to the family, but the family turned that skull over to the US government to be studied, to make sure it was actually authentic. I haven't heard anything more about it since, but it all happened on that same day, on the Exalted Christ, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's birthday. And at the same time, the movie was premiering. So yeah, it's interesting. So from our perspective, you know, we just need to go ahead and just keep telling the story, keep telling the history as it happened, because that's what we do. That's what we really enjoy.
Yes, sir. And thank everyone who continues to like, share, subscribe to People's Podcast. So for you, Brother Khalifa, you're saying that Nat Turner and the troops did get to actually fight and kill some of the slave masters, even though the revolt, they didn't get to the full revolt.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Most definitely. They killed up at least approximately 60 white men, women, children, and babies, because it was indeed war. So some people, of course, you know, with their tender hearts, you know, looked at it and said, oh my God, why couldn't he just, you know, maybe just kill the men? Well, it was like, no, because they were doing to us. They were killing our men, our women, our children, and our babies. Okay. And, you know, other things. So the price had to be that high. And he reasoned that, okay, if he made the price that high, then they would bring the enemy to do what? To the negotiation table. And it lasted approximately 2 days before it was put down. And he went into hiding, and not to hiding because he was scared or cowardly, but he went into hiding because it was a strategic retreat. And he absolutely intended to fight again, we believe, but he ended up being captured.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this history. People are showing love all across the country.
Yes, sir.
Bobby Jackson says, in the name and cause of Allah, honor to the prophets and messengers, most importantly, Nat Turner, 1800 to 1831. Thank you, sir. And may the peace and grace that flows from the throne to the God. Peace of the gods. Okay, yes, sir. Wonderful.
Yes, sir.
My next question for you, sir, is, so 2 days. So when was the betrayal happen? When was somebody on his side? Like how did that come about?
Oh God. Well, it was started that night of August 21st, 1831. And the first defeat that they suffered was by, I'm gonna ask you, guess who was actually the first where they actually suffered their first battle defeat? Guess who actually defeated them?
Who's that, sir?
Enslaved Black people. While the slave master and his family at this particular plantation were cowering in their house, they sent their, I have no other word, niggers out there to fight their battle. Of course, they didn't give them guns, so they had to use stones and sticks and whatever farm things they could find to actually fight Nat Turner and his troops, and that's where they actually suffered their first loss. Now, as far as the actual betrayal is concerned, there wasn't an actual betrayal. Well, yeah, there were betrayals, because as the word started to get out, there were other slaves who actually, you know, helped to hide out. the slave master and their families from being taken care of by Nat Turner and the troops. That's real. So nothing is really changed on that level. There were sellouts back then. There are sellouts today. So how he was actually caught and captured was they didn't know where he was. They had captured a few people. Of course, there are a lot of other Blacks that were killed indiscriminately who weren't even necessarily a part of it. So a lot of brothers and sisters lost their lives. And yes, there were some women who were fighting there too. It wasn't just Black men. And that's right. And he was just caught by the militia on a dragnet on somewhat of a fluke. There was a militiaman who was bringing up the rear, and his dog, search dog or whatever, had found some meat in one of Nat Turner's hiding places. And the meat was owned by Nat Turner, and he was trying to get a hold of that meat, and Nat was trying to get the meat back. And that's when he was caught by this man by the name of Benjamin Phipps. And he was taken and captured and, of course, tortured, and his wife was tortured. They tried to kill all of his bloodline, but some of his children actually did. At least one of his children managed to escape, including to an Indian plantation. And that's another thing. We've heard in our history that slavery didn't begin in 1619, it really began in 1555. And, we're told part of why, but I got to give a little bit of credit or the credit to Dr. Wrigley, Abdul Mumin Muhammad, for breaking that history down.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why the enemy was unsuccessful until 1619 was because in 1555, when they started bringing our ancestors from Africa, our ancestors were running away almost immediately into the Dismal Swamp area in Virginia, nearby where we live. And they were hiding out with the Indians, so they couldn't break them. And there's an ongoing history of resistance by our ancestors back then. It wasn't just Nat Turner who stood up. There were other slave revolts, but it's just that he was the most successful of the slave revolts. Gabriel Prosser in Richmond, Virginia,
yes, sir.
Unsuccessful. Denmark Vesey, again, there were sellouts. He was unsuccessful, but Nat Turner was successful. And one of the main reasons why is because the reason why those revolts couldn't get off the ground is because they had spread the word too far and wide, including to house Negroes. No house Negroes knew, exactly what was about to happen and when it was about to go down when it came to this revolt in 1831. There was an inkling of it. They knew that something was about to break out. But in Southampton County, Virginia, especially, fighting back was always considered to be a good alternative to actually resisting these wicked demons who had our ancestors enslaved. And it was to some degree, even when we were brought over here in ships. And come to find out, I read about something very recently that the more women, African women that they were on the slave ships, the more likelihood there was a chance that they would actually try to revolt. Yeah, just to give another correlation to that, Brother Joshua, there's a business of all things in Texas where there's like an apartment, just set up like a regular apartment, furnished or whatever, and they allow you to go in there with a baseball bat or whatever instrument that you choose and just destroy everything in sight to relieve stress. And I think it's a woman who actually owns it. And she was asked the question, well, who does more damage in there, men or women? Oh, she said it's no question, it's always women every time. So no, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Come on now. Yes,
we
sir.
know that. Yeah, this is true. 75% of the work is with the woman. So I had to stick that in there. So yeah, that's right, brother.
Praise be to my sister Miriam said that's called a rage room for sure. Of course, my sister Miriam would know what a rage room is. Perfect. Okay, we have plenty of more questions for you, Brother Khalifa, but we have a small, quick 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast this month. I want to thank everyone who continues to like, share, subscribe on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Every like, share, and comment helps our YouTube algorithm out, so we appreciate it. If you'd like to be a sponsor or donor, please cash app the People's Podcast. My brother Rashad, Street Premier Media Production, He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Also, my sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me children's book, coloring book, and now Spanish book. All three available on Amazon.com. Please go get those. My sister Naima, Stay On Point Dance Academy LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country and right here in the studio in Atlanta, Georgia. Rod Communications. If you're working on a book and you need copy editing, project management, content development, and/or media relations, please reach out to Rod Communications. Fashion Guides, Urban Streetwear for Men and Boys, 314-329-6009. He'll keep you dressed in the best of fashion, dripping in high-end clothes. Conflict mediation, squashing the beef with student minister from Austin, Texas, Robert L. Muhammad. He does a phenomenal job. His wife, Sister Fudia Muhammad. Children of the Most High, giving birth to a God and the science of child rearing. Please get her book. Brother Kenneth, bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship bow ties to you anywhere in the nation and does a phenomenal job. Dr. Henry M. Carter, King Henry's Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad, COVID-19 disinfecting cleaning services out of Chicago. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, AbdulSharif.com. And last but not least, my two books, which is Cleopatra and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are available on Amazon. Thank you all for every like, share, subscription, and donation. All right back to you, Brother Khalifa, as we continue to deal with the Nat Turner situation and, of course, your amazing life journey as well, sir. Okay, so were there any successful slave revolts?
Well, no, not like that, because if there were successful slave revolts, we'd be in a nation of our own. I mean, we can go back in history and say where, Thomas Jefferson actually wanted to see, as he called it, a colony, which wouldn't necessarily work, but still, that would be separate, and have Black people go there where they could be, have their own freedom, justice, and equality. So to me, and to us who are in the nation, anybody who's Black in America, or just any human being who has a brain and can think logically and sanely, the only way you're going to be free, justified, and equal is to have a government and a nation of your own under, righteous laws. So no, there hasn't been a completely, I take that back. There has been a successful slave revolt. You know where that is, Brother Joshua?
Where is that, sir?
Haiti, sir. Haiti. Haiti was absolutely successful, and they paid a horrible price for that.
Absolutely.
I mean, to the point where, what they won their freedom, beat literally the best military forces in the world, Napoleon's crack best troops. And the price they paid for it was unending meddling in a military blockade and paying reparations to the slave master for winning your freedom. No, that's crazy. So yeah, they were successful. Yeah, that's if they were going to say there was one successful slave revolt, completely successful, that would be it. But again, they paid a price for it. Yes,
sir. I was referring, of course, to America. I should have been.
No, there wasn't. That's the reason why we both know Allah had to come.
That's right.
There's nobody else who's going to do this job but him. Like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, Allah doesn't want anyone to take the credit for bringing down this beast, but Allah himself. That's it.
It's Allah. Yes, sir. Beautiful, beautiful. Long live the spirit of Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, David Proctor, all of the great freedom fighters and revolutionaries throughout time, men, women, and children who fought and paid a price for the liberation of our people. Shout out to Dessa Lee, Toussaint Overture, everybody who fought, everybody
all of them. It's just why, for myself, for ourselves, that's why, a part of the reason, a big motivation why we do what we do is like, okay, our ancestors went through all of that. And the only thing we have to do is pick up a Final Call newspaper, or just, give them a little bit of teachings, but we don't have to pick up a gun. We don't have to pick up a knife and do that type of, come on, man, what excuses do we have? No, so we got to keep going. No excuses.
Beautiful. Yes, sir. I was having a conversation with my sister recently, and I was telling her about my grandfather, not even going back like so many, but just the things that my grandfather had to do or my father had to do in the 80s. And I'm like, versus me, it's like, I can't really complain because I don't know how many people are outside the ministers' coliseums, as long as I've held posters minister my whole life, and saying, how do we want Farrakhan dead? And got to fight against I never had that experience.
Right.
I didn't get that, time to stand off and the cops is over here and it's like, So Eliza best knower. So until our time comes, but whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, but all of us are about to be tested, like that. If we haven't gotten that type of test, like, when I've been out soldiering in the streets, I mean, literally had a Caucasian on a motorcycle said, man, I wish you were right in front of that motorcycle right now, as if to say you would like to run over me. I mean, I was maced one time before soldiering with the final call, but that's nothing compared to what we're about to go through to get safely to the other side. If it please Allah, all of us got to go through this fire, and if it please Allah, we'll all make it through. But we know a lot of us won't make it. Heck, a lot of us ain't making it right now. Speaking of which, may Allah be pleased with brother Horace Muhammad.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, actually, I knew that brother, and actually his blood brother, who's also registered in a nation that's right around the corner from us, over here in Southampton County, Virginia, as well.
Beautiful. All praises due to Allah. Yes, sir. May Allah be pleased. Okay, great. So, Khalifa, speaking of that, let's get straight to the Million Man March.
Yes.
What was the climate like leading up to it, and how did it personally impact you?
Wow. Well, I remember my father, we actually attended one of the men's only meetings and heard the minister, said that we're going to have the Million Man March. This is in DC. It wasn't at the one in New York City where, the minister actually said it. So, it was work. It was force times distance. At that time, I think, I had sold, that was the most final call I'd ever sold. I sold 600 copies of that special $2 edition. And we were just moving. I mean, hearing stories about different brothers who were in college or whatever their situation was, if they wanted to go, then it was the mindset of, brothers and sisters to get that brother to actually go to the Million Man March. So actually getting there and being on that mall, that grassy mall, it was just an overwhelming feeling of peace that still to this day, I can't ever say I've ever felt quite like that in my entire life. That was just incredible, brother. And as I like to tell brothers and sisters, it's like, yo, we can duplicate that every day in the hood, just like that. And I believe that's part of the root reason why the minister doesn't necessarily call for another Million Man March as Black men by themselves, is because we have to grow up as Black men and say, okay, go out and do it. We can't just simply be a bunch of marchers or a bunch of talkers and a bunch of quotas. We got to do the work.
Beautiful.
So, the march was all of that, and I love to tell people about that. So indeed, long live the spirit of the Million Man March. And the minister's so humble. I mean, my God, the minister was like, yeah, if you really want to know the story about the Million Man March, you have to ask the people who actually helped to lead it and produce it, because he was just at the top. Allah used him to be the pointy end of the spear or the sword. But I mean, there's a whole nother part of the spear, there's a whole nother shaft part of the sword that if you really want to know the story, you got to ask them. I'm not necessarily one of those. Your father is. No question. So yeah, the Million Man March was incredible, and it absolutely positively was a glimpse of heaven. Sisters who showed up that day, I like to tell, again, for the young people, and this is funny too, when you actually talk with young brothers and sisters about the Million Man March, you ask them about the march. It's like, have you heard of the Million Man March? Like, yeah, I heard of it. And, this is no disrespect to young people, but we got to be really careful and make sure that we're actually speaking on the same language and on the same page, because for too many of them, it's just everything is just back in the day. So they're thinking like the Million Man March was the same as the March on Washington with Dr. King or whatever. But all that said, I like to tell them about that and be very specific about, what it was about that march that made it so special. Sisters who, their brothers saying, yo, respect the Black woman, yo, protect the Black woman. And, the sisters who did show up thought that, maybe they were going to find a good boyfriend or a good man, but it really wasn't that type of a party or a spirit at all. It was, brothers who and sisters who were selling things. They sold out of their things like before the day was even halfway over. If they bought enough things, they probably didn't have to work for the rest of the year. There were Asian-owned businesses who were set up over there, and the brothers like, no, buy black, buy black, buy black, and they didn't necessarily got paid, but we got paid. It was just, oh my God. And then another thing is too, I wasn't there, but a brother told me that at the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol, with the House of Representatives, of course, they shut it down like a day or two before, and the congressmen and the senators were hot. My God, what's going on? How the hell they have control of DC? They didn't like that at all, brother. They didn't like that at all. And the enemy went to work, so we got to go to work.
Oh, praise the due to Allah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, my next question for you, sir, is on if people come to the People's Podcast page, you will see on YouTube, you will see different playlists. And you'll see one, of course, with Brother Joshua Farrakhan interviews, one with my father and family, one with martial arts. But the newest one that I've been working on is one dealing with the subject of UFOs, baby planes, and or mother planes. And there's a playlist of people who have, saying they understand who's flying them, they've had experiences with them. And I saw you on the comments on one of the ones that I did, and you said that you had an experience. Would you like to elaborate?
It's not just an experience, the experiences are ongoing. They don't stop and haven't stopped right up until this moment. I mean, these baby planes can do what they will, and a mother plane can do what they will. They have technology that is absolutely incredible. So even when we don't see them, they are there doing whatever they're supposed to be doing. But the amazing thing to me is, Brother Joshua, is how even though it will be at night and I can clearly see them and can tell and know that's not an aircraft of, European or American or any nation's origin. It is definitely of, as my wife loves to call it, of Star Nation. We call them baby planes. And I'm like, okay, I can see this. Why isn't everybody else seeing this? Heck, I mean, Brother Joshua, just a few days ago, of all things, I was actually watching some fireworks in Richmond, Virginia. And I'm looking up in this part of Richmond, and I'm just seeing the baby planes just doing their thing. And I'm surrounded by thousands of people. And I'm like, okay, how am I seeing this? And everybody else isn't seeing this and realizing what's going on. But the people, like Allah says in the Holy Quran, are deaf, dumb, and blind. So they hear not. So if you're not trying to raise up mentally and spiritually, things will be right there in front of your face, and you'll still miss it because you call the truth the lie and lie the truth, like Allah says in the Holy Quran, which is, it's true. So, if you really are sincere and you really want to know, I hate that, I understand, I hate that, but like Scully says in
X-Files.
Yeah, the truth is out there. If you want to know, you're going to know. They're out there. So the experiences are very personal, be you in the nation or not in the nation.
Absolutely.
Registered per se. I mean, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, he knew the year when he was going to have 10 million. And we are really and truly at that point. Every night. It doesn't necessarily have to be over a big city in Chicago. It doesn't have to be in New York. It can be anywhere. They are there. You can see videos online where, there's a rocket that's going up into space over a nuclear facility or whatever. And, the baby planes would be like, okay, y'all ain't gonna do this. Y'all ain't gonna do that. And the rocket explodes, doesn't take off or whatever. So, no, Allah is very real. Very, very real. Man is God and man is Allah. Allah, God, absolutely is the black man. And he is in complete and total control. And I don't care what the hell this world goes through, part of my expression. As far as World War III is concerned, like I was saying earlier, we don't have to worry about no nuclear war happening over here in America. And no disrespect to the rest of the world, but this is a preserved area, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in Fall of America. Ain't nothing going to happen to America except by Allah's permission. And Allah wants to take credit totally and completely for this. And we're here. So no, we don't have to worry about anything. And anybody who's righteous doesn't have anything to fear. It's not just the bosom of Allah, it's just there exclusively for Allah's Messiah and his Christ. And no, it's there for all of us. And not to say we're perfect, because Allah knows that we're not, but there's room for his divine protection for us too, if we would just strive hard to do the right thing. So yeah, they're real, brother. They're very real. To give you a personal example, in 1998, I think it was. I don't think it was 99. Savior's Day, Chicago. We had just seen the minister speak to believers only, and excuse me, on our way back to our hotel rooms, we got an escort from some baby planes. And when we got to the toll plaza, one of them grew a really bright white light. And then like 2 or 3 more just finished escorting us all the way back to our hotels. So that was just one example. And they're not just there for show either. Lord knows they can do some things. So, you know, in the name of Allah, I would just say, you know, for anybody and everybody who wants to know the truth, it's out there. Read the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, listen to the minister, and you know, keep your eyes and ears, you know, especially spiritually open. And you know, very soon, you know, we're going to see them in broad daylight all over America where they can't be denied. And I think the minister was actually asked a question: when exactly is that going to happen? That's going to be when the enemy makes their attack physically on our mosque and study groups under his care. So no, we ain't got a thing to worry about. We just have to continue to stay and strive hard to do the right thing. The minister, you know as well as I know, Brother Joshua, he's not worried about himself. Allah got him. He's worried about us.
That's right.
We really need to be worried about ourselves too. So yeah, our strength lay in our submission to do the will of Allah, and our strength lay in our unity. So we got to get it. We got to do it, and we absolutely will do it, I believe.
All praise due to Allah. Yes, sir. And I'm glad that you used the statement that people who are bearing witness who aren't necessarily registered. I tell people all the time, all you got to do is YouTube Joe Rogan UFOs. Millions of views.
Yeah.
I'm talking about from people all over the country who come on Joe Rogan's podcast and they're like, oh, they're absolutely real. White people, pilots, everybody, they're like, no, yeah, it's real. I believe in it for sure.
But the difference is that the enemy is trying to spin it a certain type of way. Okay. I mean, heck, my wife actually told me about in Africa, a baby plane actually touched down, and of course, black men got off of the ships, and the African children were talking about, the black men actually got off of the ships and interacted with them, and then they got back in the ship and took off. And the enemy spun that and lied and said, no, it's actually some gray looking aliens or whatever. And again, we have all these Hollywood movies and television or whatever else, and they're going to try to make it look like, they're invading and they hit a kill. Oh my God. And we know very, very, very differently. No, Allah got this. Hell, I even saw on Facebook, of all things, Brother Joshua, sometimes we really mean well, but we really say some dumb things in the name of Allah. And I'm not even going to repeat what he said, because then some people will say that maybe Brother Khalifah's thinking the same thing. Allah got this. Allah and the person of Master Prophet Muhammad got this. Allah needs no one. He is all independent. He begetteth not, nor is he begotten. There is none like him. He doesn't need anyone or any help. He got this. He got this. We have him.
Yes, sir. Okay, 2 more questions for you, Brother Khalifa.
Yes.
What is your favorite album of all time?
Ooh, no, I can't really say I have a favorite. I have favorite artists and I have favorite albums. My favorite artists are certainly Prince and Stevie Wonder on a solo level. But if I had to say a favorite group, that's Earth, Wind, and Fire. Hands down, Earth, Wind, and Fire. My favorite album by Earth, Wind, and Fire, All in All. My favorite album by Prince. I can't really say I have a favorite. Yeah. No, I don't really say I have a favorite. I have favorites. So yeah, that's. But I like all different. I love all different kinds of music.
So Prince, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Jazz, and R&B being definitely being my favorite. I also love rap. So I mean, growing up in the Bronx, New York, I love hip hop. Real hip hop. No disrespect to our brothers and sisters who say they like rap music, but we got to put the right message in the music, young people. So let's do it and remember. But we can't really blame the youth for anything they're saying or doing in the way of anything that they're doing in ignorance. That's on us. Heck, I just turned 53 the other day. And if our young people are acting up and doing things that we know they shouldn't be doing, we can't blame them. As the older generation, we have to look at ourselves and take stock for that. So it's like, look, if the music isn't right, then say to them in love, give them a better example, and don't necessarily condemn the example. And I try to be like that. Like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, don't condemn the dirty glass, put a clean glass up there next to it. And, hopefully they'll learn and choose the right thing.
Praise be to Allah.
As
Yes,
far
sir.
as my favorite rap group, that's Public Enemy. That's definitely Public Enemy. Yeah.
Shout out to Public Enemy for sure. Yes, sir. Okay. What would you like your legacy to be, Brother Khalifa?
My legacy, I would hope it would be that I was just a brother who tried hard, strove hard to be a Muslim, and was a helper to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his top student, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, using my gifts of writing and teaching and speaking. I don't know if you saw the little book that I have that unfortunately it's out of print, called Nation of Islam Frequently Asked Questions, which I have to get back into print. But I love to teach. So whatever I can do to help out our people, and on that wise, I always say that it's not just the mission as FOI, there's the mission within the mission. What is our personal aspect within the mission? My personal aspect within the mission is intellectual property in the way of books, in the way of media, in the way of teaching, is education. That's my thing. That's my specialty. That's what I love to do. So I just want to be, if there's a legacy, I just want to be remembered as a helper who did all that he could and is still striving to do. And that way, as far as the history is concerned, of the nation, of Nat Turner, of Black history, and that's how I would like to be remembered. Just the brother who liked to help. I don't want to have any particular titles. Oh, he went down as the greatest minister, the greatest secretary, the greatest this and so on. No, just as a brother, and I do mean that sincerely. Like it says in the Supreme Wisdom, the greatest title of all is not lieutenant, captain. No, the greatest title of all is Muslim. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Brother Khalifa, will you, because you are big into history, books and knowledge and understand supreme wisdom, do you ever engage, like if there's a debate or conversations dealing with, is that something you engage in?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, Brother Khalifa loves to debate. If you go on YouTube and see anything about Malcolm X or the nation or the teachings or whatever, just people making little snide comments about the minister of the nation, Brother Khalifa is going to raise up in the name of Allah. And I'll strive to be as civilized as possible, but I'm going to say something. I don't care if it's on the internet. I don't care if it's in person. I got to say it. I got to do it. I got to be it. And I'm going to stand on that truth. Like the minister reminded us and said to us at a Savior's Day, the Swan song, he liked that saying. How did he say, Brother Joshua? I can live with so many things. There's one thing I cannot live without. I can't live without the truth. So and this is that time that we're living in right now, as registered believers under the minister, even if you don't think you're the most well-spoken, if you don't think you don't necessarily know this fact or that fact, heck, just point out to a brother or a book or whatever we actually can find that information, and let them do the talking. Go ahead and post up a link to the speech by the minister. Post up a link to the final call. We could actually get this book, and that will actually refute that silly argument by this ignorant person or by this devil who actually knows what he's saying is a lie. So yeah, I love to do that. I love to defend this. That's what I do, but I just strive to do it in the best of manners, and there's been times when, like I tell people, when you get a hold of these teachings, you're going to have an arrogant streak. And if you say you do not have an arrogant streak, that really means you're arrogant. Because like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the first thing that you have to do is acquire knowledge. But then after you acquire that knowledge, you have to learn how to hold yourself down. Because if you're a Black man and you're told the Black man is God and you believe that, you're not careful, your head is going to get so swole, you ain't going to be able to get it through the doors of your house. So no, we got to be humble. We got to be humble. But at the same time, we have to balance that out. So, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that his best or his favorite quote from out of the Holy Quran is, you can neither step over the mountains nor step through the earth. So why not just be humble? That's from the Holy Quran. But at the same time, the minister said what? He wants the ground to tremble when FOI walk in the grounds. So we have to balance that out. Huh? That's real.
Beautiful. All praise to Allah. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for Khalifa to come give us some amazing information and
Praise
inspiration.
Thank you.
And I didn't know about your book, The Frequently Asked Questions of Nation of Islam. So how can we get that?
Well, I need to go ahead and get it back into print and get my website back up. So yeah, I'll be going into my third printing, and when I get it back into print, I will definitely let you know.
Yes, sir, please, because I think that's something that we all need to just have a little poo-poo, you know what I'm saying, a little jab. We out in the public, we just, hey, frequently asked questions. I just saw that. All right, I know what to say to you. So I definitely will use that. Yes. Thank everyone who continues to watch the People's Podcast. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off for the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Khalifa.
Wa alaikum salam, Brother Joshua Muhammad. Thank you.
Thank you again, sir.